Hello. Hello and welcome to Around the Town with Mark. I am Mark Whalen, your host. We are always glad to have you tune in and visit with us. As usual, we have a really great show for you today. I think today is going to be something really special that you're really going to enjoy. Let me taste this for you. Beer. Delicious, delicious beer. And this is made right here in Groton. And I'm going to introduce you to our guest, and he's going to tell you all there is to know about his process of making this delicious brew. Allow me to introduce Tom Drejer, who is the owner of the Outer Light Brewing Company here in Groton, Connecticut. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you. So tell me, tell me what I'm drinking here. This is delicious.
Oh, you're drinking something? I thought I'd bring something a little extra special. So one of our year-round beers we make is called Libation Propaganda Coffee Stout. So it's a coffee stout, and we use local coffee from Ashland Farm, which is a coffee roaster in Old Saybrook. And it's something we do year-round. To make it special, we took bourbon barrels and aged our coffee stout in the bourbon barrels. So you get a little bit of a treat. There's some really nice flavors that you can pick out in here. You get oak, you can get vanilla straight from the barrel, hints of bourbon as well, and then you get that nice smooth coffee on the back end.
It's a very smooth coffee to this. I can really get that in there. That's really delicious.
Yeah, it's a nice creamy oatmeal stout background, very easy, approachable. And it's not, mostly when you have bourbon or barrel-aged type beers, you're looking at, Imperials, 9% alcohol per volume, which is pretty up there. But in this case, it's 5.5%. It really is just a barrel-aged version of our regular coffee stout. So you can kick back with a couple of these instead of being very afraid and having an after dinner sip.
It's very, very smooth.
Yeah.
And like you say, you can pick up just hints of a little bit of other flavors that come out and sort of linger in your mouth after maybe the coffee taste is gone a little bit, and pick up, and I can definitely pick up on the bourbon.
Yeah, and it's
That's
interesting
really great
thing of what craft breweries are doing today. It's a lot different. There's so much to play with, and one of the reasons I brought it, so you get an idea of, there's a really big depth and breadth of what you can do with beer and the flavors. You can get something very basic, something that most people are very used to, or you can get something much more complex and interesting like this.
And you too out there in TV land, you too can enjoy this fabulous, fabulous beer. It is truly good, and I'm sure you have many other products that you'd like to share with us today, but tell us about the brewery itself and where it's located, and what is it? What is the experience of going into that brewery?
Yeah, so the brewery is, first and foremost, we're a production facility. So we're focused on producing beer in more or less large quantities. We are still a microbrewery, so we're not big by any means, but we'll put them in kegs is our main form of packaging right now. We're just starting to get into 12-ounce bottles that are starting to slowly get sold in 6-packs, and some of those have popped up around town so far. But we'll have anywhere from 12 different styles of beer on tap at a time inside the facility. So the facility is about 6,000 square feet. Of that, maybe 20% or so, it has a little tap room that you can come in. You can sit down, you can purchase flights, pints. These growlers can be filled to go. So there's a little bit of experience that people have when they come there. There's some large windows you can see onto the production floor. You'll see fermenters, our brew house where we make the beer, things like that.
I think we have a picture of the brewery itself where you have some of your guests enjoying their beer. Oh, there we go. It's right up on the screen. So tell us a little bit about what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so right on the screen here you have the tap room. So that's what it looks like when you come in. You can see the windows in the background that go into the production floor there, but you've got tables. We encourage people to bring their own food. There's a binder of menus as well that sits on the side, so people can actually order in. They'll order in Thai, pizza, any of the local restaurants that might deliver.
Oh, so you can be enjoying your beer that you brew for them right there, and you can bring in your own food or order right there. So
yeah, and we love it because it
lets
people get something from the local community, something that they really love, and they can pick it up and bring it in, or something they make their own, a cheese and cracker plate that they might bring from home or something.
That sounds like a very fun concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that very much.
It is neat, and you'll see some flights on the bar over there, so people choose four different styles of beer that they'd like to taste. They got a growler on there. There's a little mug club, and we get a lot of people from the local community come in, a lot of Electric Boat, Pfizer, Navy.
Yeah, I was going to say I see some Navy uniforms in there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice, and in the in the summer there's a little bit of an airy feel. You see the door up in the background into the parking lot, so it's a semi-outdoor feel. So yeah, and then you see the staff behind the bar there. So it's a small kind of bar area there, maybe 8 seats across, but it's a pretty cozy atmosphere. A lot of wood and metal to kind of contrast what you see on. There's a lot of stainless on the production floor. So
Well, it certainly looks like everybody's having a very good time.
yeah.
So tell me, what brought you into the beer making business here in Groton?
The beer making business started a long time ago. I started making beer in '98 back in college, and so through one of my roommates, he got me interested. He said he'd done it with his dad before, and we thought we'd give it a shot. And it's something we grew to love. And craft beer was just kind of getting started. It was really Sam Adams that was getting things started off the ground, and you can kind of find those around the United States at that time. And little brew pubs. There was a little brew pub in town we'd go to, and just the kind of love grew from there. And somewhere around 2006, I wanted to get something started, but wanted to make sure we did it right. So went to business school, tried to understand how business works first before kind of jumped in.
That's very smart.
Yeah.
If you make a go of it, you want to make it work.
Right. Gain a little bit of credibility with if it was going to be investors or banks or whatever we needed to do to get started. And then there was my partner Matt, so I'm one of the co-owners, and Matt Ferrucci is the other co-owner, and he was finishing business school at the time, and I knew him basically from through high school as well, and so we decided to make a stab at it. And Groton, we wanted to be in Southeast Connecticut, and Groton was a perfect location, we thought. Not too much craft beer in the state at the time down in this direction as well, and we're both drawn towards the outdoors, and I like to surf, so I like to get more towards the shoreline, and Matt himself is really into hiking, so it's a nice place to get outside. Bluff Point is a beautiful place to go.
Yes.
So
that's terrific. Now, can people, when they experience that, can they take some of these beers home with them?
Yeah, of course. The growler is 64 ounces, so that equals to about 4 pints worth. That people can take home with them.
So you can come in, purchase this,
Yep.
take it with you, or something similar to that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Remember that, everyone.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you can bring in, so if you see these around, sometimes they're sold in stores, not ours particularly, but you can find these types of bottles in the store. You can take those, bring them in. There's also 32-ounce growlers that are around. We don't have them in the brewery, but people bring those in to be filled. It's really the 32 and 64-ounce jugs that have carried beer before. And then we recap them with fresh new caps when people come in, and they can choose whatever beer that we have on tap to bring home with them.
Well, tell us then a little bit about the process. And I imagine it would be very complicated and precise to make something as delicious as this.
Yeah, absolutely. You want something to be, you want a consistent product that people can come to expect, that whenever they pick it up, they have it on tap, pick it up off the shelf, that it's, they're experiencing the same thing time again. So that's a difficult process, and something we have to pay very careful attention to in our process to make sure everything is done right. But yeah, it all starts with 4 key ingredients in beer, as anyone would tell you. It's malt, yeast, hops, and water. Those are really what it takes to.
Sounds pretty simple, actually.
Yeah, you can get really in the weeds scientific if you really wanted to, but that's where it all starts. And so in the production, we have our brew house, and the brew house is essentially where things get put together. But before that, it really starts with the malted barley, so the bags of grain. And so each recipe, we do in-house is about 800 to 1,000 pounds of grain. And so that ends up being a lot of different grain bags that you have to put together, and we stage those in our malt room.
I think we have a picture of the malt room that people can see. And
there you go.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Yeah. So you can see on the left actually, and on the right. So those are two different beers that are staged to get made. So the one on the left you can see has a little bit more grain to it, which more grain would lead to a higher alcohol content. And on the right is another one. So premium 2-row, 80% of a beer we make usually has a 2-row of base malt. And then you'll see little brown bags or other types of bags mixed in there, and those are specialty grains. They help give color, and different types of flavors. So you'll get darker grains in the coffee stout, and that's how we get that darker color.
Oh, all right, very
Yeah.
good. And I think we have a picture of step 2, which is, there we go, that's stainless steel tanks, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not
that's
sure.
what we refer to as our brew house. So on the right, so in that room, there was a little grain auger, which is that white pipe that runs across the ceiling there. And that ends up going into the upper right into what's just simply called the hopper. So that little conical shaped cone on the bottom of that vessel in the upper right. And that's sitting above the mash tun, so that's the bottom right vessel. And that's where grain mixes with hot water. And there's about a 10-degree temperature difference that we run in that we can manipulate already the body, the mouthfeel of the beer and the alcohol content, and also the color and some of the flavors. So that's where everything comes together. So it mashes, it sits there like tea basically. And as it sits there, it extracts and converts sugars from those grains. And
Very good.
yeah.
Now, is this what we're looking at now, or what we had? Is that something that your customers, your guests, can view as well?
You can see that through the production floor windows. Right now we're about a 7-day-a-week operation, so we haven't started tours. We've been open for a little bit over a year, but we'd like to get to a point where we can get on a 5 to 6 day shifts and open up the floor to the public, so we can start some tours. But yeah, we do guide people through while we're looking through the windows in the tap room as well sometimes to let them know what's going on there.
That's good. I imagine that adds another level of fun for the people that are coming in to enjoy their beer or their meal, is to be able to see where this product is coming from.
Yeah,
where it's
and you
being
do
made.
get the question a lot of, is all the beer made here? We're like, yeah, absolutely, and you can see it right there. That's where
there in
everything's
that
happening.
right. And then there's I think we have a picture of is it the final process?
Yeah.
That we have. There we go.
Yep.
What are we looking at here?
So these are the fermenters, and the fermenters, so if in the back left is the kettle. So once we steep all the grains, we go into the kettle and we'll boil everything down, and you add your hops, and hops are a preservative. They also add aroma and flavor again, and these days in craft beer, the flavors are really citrusy. You'll get anything you want. You can get very floral, strawberries, fruity, it's really amazing what you can do. And once it's pushed over these vessels, the fermenters here, that's where you introduce yeast into the sugary wort, is what you call it, before it actually turns into beer. And yeast is a living organism like me and you, and what it wants to do is be comfortable around 68 degrees, and it starts eating all the sugars in the beer, especially when we're doing an ale. That's the fermentation temperature. And it'll eat those sugars and create alcohol and carbon dioxide as a byproduct. And that's a little doctor's chart, we call them, as you see on the front of the fermenter door there. So we'll monitor the beer every day, taste it as it's fermenting, and watch. We take gravities, so there's specific gravities, and those drop over time. And the difference between the starting and finishing gravity will tell us the alcohol content. It'll help us see how consistent things are going and how fermentation is moving along. And so that's a lot of important information on that. And also on that is every time we pull a lever when we're making the beer in the brew house, everything, so we can replicate to the down to the minute what's going on. So
Sounds like you're also a little bit scientist.
yeah, of course you have to be,
yeah.
and that's where we get that consistency and in a quality product. First and foremost, that's what we care about the most, and we want our customers to come in and experience something that they really can connect with, and they want to go home feeling that they had something that tasted great, and they found something that they loved. So
And found something that from Adderlite Brewing Company they probably won't find at their local grocery store or market. You're gonna find something that's beautifully handmade like this is. And it's pretty special.
yeah,
This is really good.
And it's interesting. We have a lot of, there's a couple in Connecticut. There's 2 other breweries very local to us in Stonington and Pawcatuck. And, it's beautiful to bring people down to Southeast Connecticut from other parts of the state. And I think everyone's helping attract people down and come enjoy everything, Groton has to offer in the area. It's, bringing people down in the Southeast Connecticut, see the beaches, see the Bluff Point and things like that. So I think that's been a neat little draw, and getting people to visit the other breweries as well and taste what everyone has to offer, and it's all part of the local product. So.
Well, it's I guess sort of like a winery, but instead of wine, you're doing the same thing and you're doing beer, and it makes your Adelaide Brewing Company, I would think a destination also by itself, almost like another one of our wonderful tourist attractions, like you just mentioned, that we have in this area. And you've sort of created one of your own.
Yeah, and we all work together down here, and whether it be wineries or breweries. So.
We do. That's one great thing about our community is, I think, in my travels around and all the events that I do, is everybody looks out to help everybody else. There's not a competition going on with a lot of these smaller businesses. It's all the same community, all wanting, if you do well, your buddy's going to do well, and it's going to come back to you.
Yeah, and then it's fun to use some of the local products or other things. A few of us have used. There's another winery, Jonathan Edwards, where some of us have used their barrels. So we're actually filling their barrels at the brewery today, and we're going to age some beer in those barrels, and you get some of the coffee flavor, just like we used bourbon barrels here. There's a whole different flavor profile you can get from local wine barrels, so that's a neat thing to do.
Now, with all of the different variations of beers that you produce and you serve, do you find, are there any particular ones that are the most favorite for people, or I'm not an expert on beer, so
yeah,
it
depends on the breweries you go to, what people's favorites are, and what tends to be the best seller for a brewery, and it also depends on the type of person that's there at the time.
Of course.
And for us, one of our top sellers is our regular coffee stout. So it was very fun to bring out the bourbon barrel-aged version of this, just to give some people a different twist on it and something to connect with. Other than that, our IPA sell really well, which is, we have one year-round called Subduction, which is a tribute to the being from the local submarine capital of the world. Our tap handles are actually submarines for that beer.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah,
that's very appropriate right now because we are celebrating Submarine Century, so that's great.
Yeah, we had an event in Washington Park last night, and we poured some of our beer there.
That was the actual birthday bash, I think.
Yeah.
Great, and you were there.
Yeah.
And serving your beers to the guests.
Yeah, so that was fun, and so the IPA right now is the #1 selling type of beer in the United States. So no matter where you go, I think people are really craving, that type of beer, and there's so many different variations and so many different hops that people are using now, and different ways and styles to, they're bending the rules of the original style of that beer, and so that's been a lot of fun to play with, and people are really looking for something new and different all the time with that type of beer. So. We have that, our IPA, our coffee stout, and then we have an amber, which is our Lonesome Bowman. Those are 3 year-rounds, and then everything else we do is, we call them one-offs, or our Shoreline series, where we're trying to do something different. And so we'll play with different types of IPAs or Saisons, which are Belgian farmhouse-style ales. So we're about to do, examples of stuff we've done before that are really fun. We did an oyster stout, and we did that with Engine Room and Oyster Club over in Mystic, and so we got together and used local oysters, no-ank oysters from the Mystic River, and that was really fun. And then
I never would have thought oysters would be part of an ingredient for beer. I think that's pretty neat.
It was really neat, and people loved it, so we think we'll probably bring that back. Darker beers, we tend to try to bring more of them out in the colder months. People tend to gravitate towards those darker beers in the summer. People want something a little bit lighter in color. But another thing we're doing with Manana in Groton here is a local Mexican restaurant where we're going to do a Saison, a Belgian farmhouse, but we're going to add some probably avocado leaves and some form of pepper and hibiscus, and just have something really unique. So you can really stretch the boundaries of ingredients.
I guess, do you work with some of these local chefs to create these products with them?
Yeah, last year we worked with Merch Masala they gave us a garam masala recipe that we thought would be best. And when you go to the stores, you'll find these different spice mixes they're just full of salt, and that's the hard thing.
Yeah.
You can't really use those, so it's extremely fun to work with these local restaurants. And they don't use these really salty types of off-the-shelf, store shelf ingredients. They're really getting creative and making something of high quality, and we love to work with them and put it in the beer and see how things turn out. And
it sounds extremely creative.
It is. It's very creative and risky at the same time. I think so.
Yeah.
Well, because we're making maybe 500 gallons at a time is kind of what our batch size is. And you never know exactly how it might turn out. You can get these things on paper and you get everything together as best as you can, and you want to make sure it comes out as perfect as possible. And to this day, everything has come out beautifully. So that's
Knock
something
on wood
we've been
somewhere around
yeah
here.
right. We've been really proud of it, but it's risky to a point in a way, but we know what we're doing and we're confident in what we're doing. But when you're using new ingredients, you just never know exactly what the end product's going to be. And you can do a little small 5-gallon batch, like homebrew style, if you really wanted to. But scaling those things up turns into a much different product anyway. It's really difficult to go from 5 gallons to 500 and make it exactly the same.
Oh, certainly. That's true with any recipe or anything that you do or cook or make.
Right.
It's always so different. And then I guess there's that element of, even if you're happy with the creation that you've made, there's that little bit of risk, is your customer's going to be as happy with that as you are.
Right.
But I suppose that with the varied people and tastes, I imagine that's fairly easy for you to match up.
Yeah, and it's been great. I think when people come in and they've seen us, one of our favorite comments we hear is everything's been very approachable and people really loved everything they had. So that's a neat thing to hear and something we've been really proud of. So I think someone will always find something they like. And it's craft beer. We try different things, and I don't think there's not a beer for everybody. Some beers can be enjoyed by everyone, but people have their favorites and they'll find their favorites. And
I've always thought of the two times that beers are most popular are the summertime. At least for me, I know when it's hot and I've been working in the yard all day.
Yeah.
Having a really nice, cool, cold beer is really great.
Yeah, on the lighter end, right? Lighter
and then in the fall, you're thinking of Oktoberfest and that type of thing, and then perhaps something a little bit more rich like this.
And you're right, things follow the season. So an Oktoberfest is actually, it's got more of a malt backbone to it, but it's not fully as dark as you're seeing here. But this still is a nice cold beer and a nice experience in the summer to have a stout.
Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid to drink stouts in the summer. They think it's a very heavy beer. And turns out it's really what makes it heavy is the look, the color.
The color.
But it's not actually a heavy beer in the end.
Well, I can tell everyone out there that this beer is not heavy. It is.
Yeah, it's got a nice light finish.
It's got a wonderful light finish to it. It goes down incredibly smooth. And you don't even have to like coffee and you would love this beer.
Yeah. Or bourbon, for that matter. It's aged in the barrels, but you don't.
You don't pick out any one real particular color. Flavor. Excuse me. It's just something there.
Right. Everything subtly kind of works together really well, and that's what you want. You don't want one thing overpowering the other. You want it all to come together and be this perfect, smooth product, and it is, and that's been the treat of playing with these different types of ingredients and barrels and the coffee itself. So the best part of the coffee is we use whole bean coffee. And in the fermenter, basically, once the beer is fermented through, we put it on top of the coffee and it sits on these beans for 24 to 36 or so hours. And it's almost like a cold brew, but you're not grinding the beans or anything like that, but that really helps us get a strong coffee aroma. And it also cuts the acidity. And when you cold brew a coffee, I don't know, this in the summer in my fridge, I know I have my whole little vat of cold brew coffee, so it's a concentrate, and you can just pour it out in the morning and have a nice cold cup of coffee, and it's not as acidic as if you used a hot coffee, if you brewed it and then used it in the beer. I think most people tend to use a cold brew infusion or whole bean like we use. We're small enough to use whole bean, so the larger the brewery, the harder time they're going to have using a whole bean coffee. But
no, I'm just really taken with this. Everybody, you got to try this. This is really, really, really good. As is, I'm sure, just about every product that you make, I'm sure is as fabulous as this.
I think
I've never quite experienced anything like this, but it's so incredibly refreshing. It's great. Now, I guess, like we just talked about, different beers for different seasons, which means you probably have best sellers for different times of the year as well. I'm sure that's just all the same.
Yep.
Same kind of all runs together.
Yeah.
Is there a time of year where you find that your business is busier than other times, or is it just pretty much steady regardless of the season?
Yeah, well, we've been in business for just over a year, so we're just getting our feet under understanding how many people come through the door and when, and as we've grown and more people have come to know who we are. I think it seems like winter may be the most busy time. Kind of after Thanksgiving, things really pack
Really,
in. There's
yeah.
less to do outside. And yeah, I think the rest of the year it's very steady and things are great. But I think you get that extra bump in the winter of everyone just wanting to get outside. No one really wants to get wrapped up in cabin fever, and it's neat to see people kind of come out. And this time of year, people come through, and I think people will take a little bit more beer to go, enjoy it with family and friends outdoors or at picnics, and
Sure.
um,
And I would say something like this would be a great gift.
yeah, definitely.
Any time of year for somebody, a hostess gift to take for a party, or
Yeah.
a Christmas gift for somebody.
Just had Father's Day, so that was a big
yeah.
day of people coming to growlers, T-shirts for their fathers. That's the neat thing to see. And a lot of people just come in with their fathers on that day, and father son drinking beer on Father's Day is pretty fun to see.
That's great. So you have other products too that you sell, like T-shirts and things.
Yeah, T-shirts, pint glasses, hats, things like that.
All
yeah.
right. Yeah, I see you're wearing an Outer Light Brewing Company hat and
Yep,
T-shirt.
T-shirt, yeah.
So
and-
see, everybody, like, stop down there, have a beer, have some meal, buy some goodies, buy some gifts.
yeah.
Got a little bit of everything. It sounds not only creative, but I guess as someone that creates all these recipes, it must be very gratifying when you come up with something really fun, really different, that's unique to what you brew.
Yeah,
outside from
and
somebody else.
we try to work in the tap room as well. So I'll be in there working with my wife tonight. We'll be serving beers, and it's fun to connect to our customers and see everybody, and that's really gratifying for sure.
So it's a family operation as well.
Oh yeah,
bit,
my partner will have his wife in, and they'll be serving beers on certain nights. We have a head brewer, Tyler, who's amazing. He's come up from North Carolina about a year and a half ago for the coldest winter we've ever had. So poor guy got stuck right in the middle of it. But
Yeah.
he'll also always be out there and chatting with the customers, and people. I think a lot of people that are local that have come a lot really have grown to know all of us. So it's been a fun experience.
Well, that's also something that brings them back.
Yeah.
It's not just that you make a wonderful product, which you do, and I can attest to that, everyone, but you have this great room that you've created for people to come and enjoy, and the interaction with the people there, like yourself, who actually create these products, I think adds another element of fun for anybody that comes to your establishment,
Yeah.
because it's not just having a great beer.
Right.
It's
It
having
really
a
is.
great experience.
Yeah, and people love to meet everybody. Everyone that's had their hands in it. We have Sydney; she's one of our assistant brewers, and occasionally she'll be in the tap room as well. And so people love to meet everybody.
Right. Well, Tom, I want to thank you for being on Around the Town with Mark, and with teaching us all about what it's like to make these wonderful beers.
Yeah.
And we are so glad to have Outer Light Brewing Company here in Groton. And certainly everybody, I can attest, this is really fabulous beer. I'm going to taste it again.
I will too.
I could do that all day. So remember, everybody, Outer Light Brewing Company, great experience in all kinds of ways. And as usual, I want to thank you for tuning in with us today. This has been a great show. We've learned a lot. I've certainly enjoyed tasting a lot, and I'm going to finish this before I leave today. Again, thank you for tuning in with Around the Town with Mark. We're going to have another great show for you coming up real soon. Always tune in, share, watch us, and thank you very much. And we'll see you again very soon.